clean up the damn room or buy a diesel or snippet up on a pooch. 3. Say, if we're gonna watch that damn room, we'll need to have lines good because kangaroos faster. Not only us, even me. Yeah, I picked wrong. I thought it might be easy. It's not actual text, but 4. I thought if Luke had looked at the kangaroo's pooch and we Grumpy had looked in, the kangaroo wouldn't make any difference because we Grumpy is a totally weird creature. 5. Like root. 6. We can go into the living room. However, tonight, Gyles will be talking to us, as I say, about his very special book, a biography with A.A. Milne and the very most beloved Beth. Hugh Gyles. Not coming just yet, but great. So, yeah, before we get into this is actually my childhood reading too. I got when I was 1. So yeah, I bought them up for the event because I think he'd be very pleased to meet Gyles and vice versa as well. So I think he's just getting his headset on. He's also he's never tried it before, but he likes it. It's not quite as good as Sussex honey in his opinion, but he does enjoy it. I mean, honey's honey to me too anyway. So. I'm not doing another verse. Oh no. I'm okay. I'm just. I mean, I will revert to my favourite quote card. So, Gyles Brandreth.
I'm Gyles Brandreth. That would keep you informed of the dramas. Let me explain that I left London at 9:30 this morning. The train was stopped in somewhere called Stevenage for an hour and a half. Did he tell you these things? No. Oh, did he tell you how we were 3 hours late into Edinburgh, and then nobody told us that to go to Lucas. We kept saying, Lucas? I didn't understand what we were saying. And we were English people, there was a little bit of hostility, we coped. I had to phone London to find out what the train is you take to go to Lucas. Because at Edinburgh, they never heard of anyone going to Lucas. They said, you mean the Dundee train? So then we began with all sorts of DC Thompson talk, Dandy, hours of that. Anyway, we eventually got to platform 2, the Dundee train, Originally it wasn't the Dundee train we were planning to take, that was left 2 hours before. This Dundee train, and it leaves, and they say, oh, you'll be there by 7:27, so we think we're going to be 10 minutes late. Marvellous. We get to somewhere called Kirkcaldy, which I have heard of. Because that's where I went when I broke my arm. There's a hospital there, okay? And indeed, in order to get the right kind of treatment, I said, I do know Gordon and Sarah. And I'm very well looked after as a consequence. So we saw Kirkcaldy. I thought, that's nice, I think it's very rough, Kirkcaldy. And I thought we were staying here a long time. And then a voice came over the town. Is there anyone on board with medical experience? So they sounded more like Dr. Snoddy. You know? Oh, hi. And they don't I've been cancelled in so many places. There is no Indian or Chinese restaurant in London that I can go to now. It turned out there was. Well, I mean, my wife said, why are you laughing? I was very ill indeed. I was only nervous after. Anyway, and the next carriage to us. And the train seemed to be full of medically qualified people. I mean, honestly, they were all going fighting to get to the body first. Honestly, oh, dear me. So we sat there thinking, well, it's going to be dealt with quickly. No, what turns out that somebody from the train has to stay on the platform with the body. No one in line on what it was, until the ambulance arrives to sign off the papers. So the train couldn't proceed because the thing had happened on the train, so the train staff had to be on the platform. One can see the logic of that. So on the platform we have this poor person, surrounded by medical advisors, and the staff. We were the only people left on the train. I thought maybe I could take over. Maybe I could. Long and short is we were there for a while, and eventually we got here, and then the horror of horrors. Have any of you been to Lucas station? First of all, we told our friend Susie, why go to Lucas? You should have gone to Cooper. What does she know? Anyway, we went to Lucas, we got out of Lucas, we had to climb this terrifying stairs. Nobody, is there no investment in this country? What's going on? I think we've got elections coming up. I made a stand in myself. We got these terrifying steps, and then fortunately they created a really big barrier, because they had to deep breathe, and they had to run across the other end, and they were slowly down the other side. It was terrifying. There was a very nice guy there, called Ian, who got into the car with us, a taxi, and then did this thing of driving. I know he was a good driver. He was with the fire service for 8 years. But he wanted to tell us how dark it is in this part of the world, this time of year. But he wanted to tell my wife, who was sitting right behind him. So he was driving in the dark, going, where's it? So here we are. I'm going to stop in Edinburgh, because I love Edinburgh. And whenever I go to Edinburgh, I go to the Lyceum Theatre, because that's where, when I was a boy, I had my first experience of Shakespeare. As a child, in the 1950s, my parents took me to come, I think, to the Edinburgh Festival. And there was an English actor appearing in Edinburgh Lyceum called Sir Donald Wolfett. Now, I don't know if any of you have heard of this man. He is the same generation as more famous actors, like Sir Laurence Olivier, Sir Michael Redgrave, Sir John Gielgud, that generation, born in the Edwardian era, but not so well known. But he ought to, because he travelled the length and breadth of the British Isles, and indeed overseas as well, performing Shakespeare. And he'd go to a great city like Edinburgh, and he'd be there for a whole week with his company. So Donald Wolfett, his wife Rosalind Iden, the whole company, and they do a different Shakespeare play every night. So a great hero of mine. And I remember going to see this production of Shakespeare. My parents said he's a great actor, and he was, wonderful presence. But what was most memorable about him was his curtain speech. At the end of every performance, he would appear between the central curtains, hanging onto them, looking exhausted, broken by his endeavours, to thank you for your attendance and to invite you to return the following night. And on this particular evening, this is what I remember, him hanging onto his curtains, sweating profusely, showing you how he'd given his all. And he would say, and tomorrow night, our company will be essaying the mighty tragedy of Othello. I myself will play the part of the noble Moor of Venice, and my wife, Miss Rosalind Iden,
she will be playing the part of the fair Desdemona. At which point, a voice in the gallery called out, "Your wife's an ugly old cow!" Nevertheless, I don't need to apologise for telling you, would it be sort of bad form, do you think, for that? I don't know. We do, I don't know. I never knew what was involved in the churching of women. That's always intrigued me. But when we do a baptism during the course of the evening, anyone gets us all urged to come. Why not? If anybody hasn't been baptised and feels like it, the whole kit here, to hand, which is rather exciting. So, I make no apologies for telling you a theatre story to begin my conversation with you about A.A. Milne, because Alan Alexander Milne thought of himself principally as a playwright. And he was a very successful and popular playwright 100 years ago. He wrote more than 40 plays and screenplays. He actually wrote several silent films, and of his novels and plays, other movies were made with big Hollywood stars. He had a film company himself with Leslie Howard, who became famous for appearing in Gone with the Wind. He was a playwright. In 1922, he had 7 plays running in the West End of London. Throughout 1920, he had plays on Broadway and in the West End. He was a hugely successful playwright, the Anne form of his day. But of course, nobody remembers that. His success as a playwright is virtually forgotten. His success as a novelist is virtually forgotten, even though he wrote a murder mystery in 1921 called The Red House Mystery. A year before Agatha Christie gave you The Mysterious Bed Styles, where she introduced Hercule Poirot, he was writing what many people regard as the founding volume of the modern golden age of murder mysteries. But all this is forgotten for one reason, because of the advent of Winnie the Pooh! Why I'm here, and it's very sweet of you, those who have stayed, it's very sweet of you to have done so. It's rather nice to feel that we were here tonight. I hope you can tell your children and grandchildren. We stayed late, and there was a baptism, there was actually... there was speaking in tongues, and then we all discovered what the churching of women did involve. So it's really big education. It is going to be an education meeting, I can assure you. That's how we got the grant. There's no question of that. So, Winnie the Pooh. And I have to tell you, A.A. Milne would have loved me to keep the flat jacket on, because it became very frustrating to him that Winnie the Pooh is what he simply became known for. I'm ready to be cancelled. But I'm going to give you something. This is the 13th of October in the year of our Lord, 2025. And I explained to you that I knew the real Christopher Robin, whose real bear was Winnie the Pooh. I would like you to shake my hand. And I want you to remember all your life and to tell your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren in the fullness of time that on the 13th of October 2025, though it happened an hour later than it was supposed to, I still remember the moment that I shook the hand that held the paw of the real Winnie the Pooh. Flogging our books. We well wonder why. And the truth is, we're sending the book to you because we need the money. We have 3 children.